Okay, I'm going to call to order the, the Thursday, February 6th, 2020 meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission at 6:03. Okay, and now will you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Renee, would you do roll call, please? Oh, and everybody be sure to put your mics on, please.
Raquel Duenas is absent. Ryan Firestone.
Here.
Sage Intner.
Present.
Eric Jacobson is absent. Patrick Murphy is absent. Susie Taylor.
Present.
Okay, so now, do we want to, I think we have a change to our agenda. We probably should just make that now. So we're going to amend it by removing item 8A from the agenda for tonight and moving it forward to the March meeting. Do I need a motion for that?
No, that's just an agenda
That's just an agenda change, okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so next would be public comments. I think, Renee, can you reach, I think we have some. These are comments on unagendized items.
Is there anybody else that would like a speaker card?
Okay, so all of these are going to be farther into the meeting, so I'll set those up there. We don't have any unagendized public comments. We don't have any presentations. Item 4, it does not appear that we're going to be having a police department representative this meeting, so that's number 5. Public Works communication. You're up. Perfect timing. Thanks, Greg.
The door was locked. I think I unlocked it, so
Oh.
people, I don't know if you were trying to keep
Good, you
people
have
out.
keys.
That's all right. Okay, I think on the agenda was primarily the multi-use sport courts at Sarzati Park.
Yep.
And hopefully the word was out that we staked it in the field out there. We did this once years ago with the story poles with the single court concepts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a very generous donation from the Ojai Civic Association. So they've committed to half the funding for these courts. So it's terrific
Excellent.
news
Great.
for the double courts in combination with the Prop 1B money that's supposed to be coming through for the there's good funding for this. So we'll be able to do, I think it's a $255,000 commitment. We have, yes, half the funding from Ohio Civic was $255,000 for our estimated cost of the project. And so we laid that out in the field, and we had an arborist that we were working with, the master arborist, who was commenting that the oak tree that's out there is one of the most, and this guy is works all over Santa Barbara and Ventura County as a master arborist, and he teaches arborist courses up in Santa Barbara at the City College and so on too. And he said that is one of the most beautiful oak trees he's ever seen.
It is.
We were just reminding ourselves how beautiful that tree is. And we were initially planning to infringe slightly into the drip line, somewhat locked in. But then we were talking with the engineering firm Crabtree Group that we're working with on this, and we decided we could pull the bioswale on the north side and the rain garden on the south side, that we could move that further south and still utilize that maintenance road that has to be kept around the south. So I think we can shift it just outside of the drip line. You know, the city code is tree protection zone is drip line plus 5 feet. I think we'll just be able to get there.
Oh, good.
So it would keep the same positioning in the east-west direction, the distance from the home plate for softball and so on, trying to keep that as far out as we can. And would just push it to the south nearly 20 feet, 15, 20 feet. So So the position you saw out there was the one that infringed on the drip zone, so we just worked that out, that we can push it south a little bit. And we'll be working on the environmental document with the planning group and pulling together the specs, trying to get this. The environmental doc is a little bit at the hanger. I don't think there's anything particularly important about and I'm careful how I say that because some people appreciate that Quonset hut. I think there used to be 2 of them there when the Boy Scout group used to work there, or do a lot of their group meetings there. So we're just going through the environmental on that to make sure we're all good. It might be good, treat it a lot like we did for the Libby Park playground, to offer it up,
To find a home.
any proposals if anybody wants it. And that way, if there is some interest in keeping it or moving it, it would be kept. I think I heard a rumor that the other Quonset hut went to Oakview, and is being used for maybe a car service operation. I didn't quite catch exactly where it was. Does anybody know where that one is? I don't know, so I think that's it. It's the 2 courts. We're trying to see if we could have the lighting be close to fitting in there, budget-wise. So we're having some trouble with that with the Musco lighting, but we're seeing if there's some other setups. At a minimum, we'd certainly have conduits to the center of the courts, under the pad and so on, lined up. I think that's what we'd always
Be
talked
all
about
ready
before.
to go for when the funding was there.
When the
Okay.
funding was available, right?
Clarification for me, the poles that are out now, are the moved 20 feet, or those are not?
Those are not.
Those are not.
Right.
It's gonna, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be clear.
Just worked that out. Yeah, that was last week. I think we staked it with the plan that I believe Renee forwarded to everybody. Yeah. So, and that shows that east-west alignment, right? We'd all beat a little bit, right? So to make sure we're all good with it. And
Actually,
I don't think
we
we've
were
seen
not.
that yet,
Yeah,
but-
we weren't instructed to send that to our commission. So I've got the master plan, and I've got a copy of the architect or the engineer,
right.
and then yeah. So would you like them to? Which one would you like me to forward to them?
The one that was the draft we looked at last week. That was the, so it's got the courts oriented east-west, and it's
Versus
got
the north-south is how we had. that was a
east-west
big
is, I think,
issue.
what everybody agreed to, that it
Originally.
provides the maximum room from home plate out to there.
But the sun was a real issue, using it for basketball if we played east-west, right?
So that was a big discussion, and that was the trade-off, was that the optimal orientation would be north-south, but then it cuts into quite a bit into the outfield of the baseball, and so there was a trade-off.
I've noticed playing tennis out at Libby Park a little bit. I'm a total hack with my daughter having fun. And even in the winter, with the courts oriented north-south, the sun's low enough, it's kind of blinding.
It is.
Playing on the north side, So there's probably issues with the sun no matter how you orient it. But the most common orientation certainly is north-south. But east-west is not that uncommon,
So I'm a little confused. How is it going to be left?
So the plan from the last discussion at PRC with this commission was to orient them east-west to provide the greatest distance from the home plate at Field 1, so we can maintain the kind of meets the standard what you see for softball fields.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that plan, I guess I have a copy here, but and Renee might
Since
as
we
well.
don't have this,
Mhm.
next meeting, if in the meantime there's lots of questions, would you be willing to come back?
Sure, we could even restake it.
Oh.
And why don't we restake it and send a plan, just so everybody can take a
That
look?
would be great.
And then we'll
Yeah.
get this information, and then we
That'd
can
be
have that
great.
discussion when we have it all in front of us and have
Right.
seen the actual stakes.
Yeah, so when it's restaked, we'll send the note with the plan, because I think that's pretty well set. So that was the biggest concern, was infringing on that heritage oak. That's one of the designated heritage oaks in the city.
So let me clarify for a moment. We were instructed to send an email, and we did send an email to you last week that, which we had a couple of people take advantage of, the stakes that were out there. And if you wanted to see the master plan, that we had it at the center to please come and see it. That was the email that was sent out.
But
Okay.
they've moved them since then. 20
Not,
feet,
no,
right?
no, they haven't yet.
No.
We haven't, that'll be
Yeah.
what I think, so what I'd like to do for our next meeting is, the polls will have been moved by then. We can digitally have those plans and send that whole packet to everybody, for those that
Correct.
want that level of detail.
Correct.
And for those who want to come in and see them printed, they can go into the office And that'll give everybody a time to look at the plans and to see the new stakes that show the actual location. Does that sound
Well,
about right?
the other thing is just to, like, today I went out, so, is to just, after it's been planned, then to see the new stakes actually physically. I think that's the best thing to do. That's what I would want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we can do that within the next 2 weeks.
Okay,
Great.
great.
Renee could inform everybody, stakes are moved, here's the plan.
Yep.
And, yeah,
Okay.
because the one that we have right now would show it, wherever the 20 foot to
And
the
then
north.
we will ask you to come back then. And
Okay,
Perfect.
sure, for the next meeting.
thanks,
It
Greg.
just, while we have you,
Yeah.
some of the details, I think like one thing that I don't think we'd kind of worked out was the fencing around it, what that would be like.
The proposed fencing on this plan is 10 foot on the perimeter, and I believe it was 10 foot in the center, wasn't it? I think it's supposed to be for the futsal courts to try to maintain that. So
In the center as well?
yes,
Okay.
the center is 10 foot as well.
Mhm.
So it's 10 foot perimeter and 10 foot across the center.
Okay.
So the idea being either court can be used for futsal and contain most of the play.
Yeah, it says 10-inch high chain link fence.
Mm-hmm.
10 foot. Cool. Okay. And then it's probably in here, but there's the perimeter around the courts, the kind of, I don't know, out of bounds space is that 5 feet?
That's 10. 10 foot, so all fencing is 10 feet.
No, but the space in between the basketball court, like the boundaries of the court and the fencing is,
Oh, right. The perimeter is the edge of the concrete pad. That's where the 10-foot fence is at. So I'll ask about that, but I understand that the court layout shown on these sheets, which is basketball and futsal,
is
as I understand it, I don't know futsal. Somebody, I think, Lucas, our new planning manager, has played it, and he says the ball stays within play, right? You hit the fence. But it is true the perimeter line of the futsal is approximately 5 foot in from that fencing. So I'm not familiar with the game, but I think it doesn't go out of bounds until it goes up and over.
What does that mean for the basketball court?
The basketball court, though, they have a 5 foot gap between the
Okay.
edge of the court
Yeah.
and the fencing.
I guess what's driving this is make sure that in kind of shifting things over, we're not like squeezing the boundaries so much that
We're losing any of
the
that.
court,
space.
you're going to play and run right into the fence, like that there's adequate space.
Yes, right. So that is, it's 5 feet. So that 5 foot perimeter is, as I understand it, is kind of the
Standard.
compromise. I mean, more ideal maybe for basketball to have more distance,
I
but
see.
it works for futsal as well. It's the multi-sport approach.
And
Got
is
it.
there an access gate on both sides or just on the one side?
I'm sorry, what?
The access gate to the courts?
Right. Let's see. That was.
I see it on the south side.
I know, right. The south side has the walkway in, and there's part of the requirements for MS4 MPDS type things. They're requirements for stormwater management post-construction, and so for when you exceed 5,000 square feet, you've got to capture and promote infiltration and clean up of the water. So this one did trigger that. So that's why we have to have this rain garden capture the water and promote infiltration and clean up of the stormwater on the south side. So that's actually a regulatory requirement now.
No, I think
So there's a north side access gate too. That's right there.
Right. I think each court had its,
has its own.
yeah, it was only,
It wouldn't make
South,
sense if it
And then
didn't.
between the two. Okay, I was just curious where they
Yeah.
were positioned.
right,
So they can enter on either side if there's already a court being used.
in play, right?
Okay.
And any seating?
No, no bleachers, no seating or anything like that. It would
There's
be,
no room.
yeah, right. I was thinking on the west side, it'd
Or
be tricky
no.
for the softball. On the north side,
Side, right?
it could
Couldn't
work.
put some
the east side, you could,
on the outside of the 10-foot fence?
right, you could, except that road is the SE Edison Maintenance Road, which is rarely used. It's on a rare occasion if there's a power outage, but
But it's
so,
the easement, so.
yeah, we'd have to take a look, if you could try to at least put a bench or something of that sort in there.
Yeah, that'd be, that'd be ideal to have a place to, their
Yeah.
bags and stuff. I mean, kind of like the softball area, they have a bench inside the dugout type.
It might be, without infringing on the east side where the maintenance easement is, we could probably easily put it on the south side and the north side.
On the-
Maybe
on
that's it,
either
you know, as
end.
far as just a long bench, series of benches or that kind of thing. Not bleachers, right, but maybe just a long bench if people were waiting for a team to finish or hanging about,
Yeah.
kids, whatever. So I could add that if you're
Yeah, for next time.
would
if
like
you-
to. All right. Okay, so a bench north and south, huh?
I'd
Okay.
like to get a, do we have like a cost estimate on what a set of bleachers, I mean, they don't seem that elaborate, that they have at the softball fields? Would there be room for something
Like the
like?
aluminum?
Yeah, the aluminum, not like the ones near the snack bar, but, the more basic, they're actually, mobile, they're not, I mean, they don't move, but they aren't
Right.
fixed in anything.
Yeah, like on Upper Libby tennis courts, there's a set that's mobile that's been flipped a few times. You know, it's flipped in a way that sometimes the music festival wants it oriented towards Libby Bowl, and sometimes the tennis courts wants them.
Yeah.
I think
Put it
that
up.
people would enjoy watching that and being up a little high, a couple
Yeah,
steps up.
Or waiting, and,
Mhm.
yeah, what would be great, I think, is before next week to know what amount of space is there and what's possible.
Exactly.
So that if there are options to do something
Yeah.
like that,
Mhm.
great. If
Yeah, it
most we
might
can
be
do
too
is a bench or
tight, so
two.
it depends
Yeah,
on
that'd
what
be
you would
nice to
get.
know.
I know one of the points the master arborist was saying is a tree like this really should have some kind of fence around it to restrict, even though it's the ideal place, I know, for soccer and everything else, it's a shaded area, so it's always ideal. And that's why a lot of people park in their trees as well. But it's really not ideal to compact the soil under a tree like that. That's what restricts air and water infiltration. So he was saying really the best protection is to have, at a minimum, post and rail fence around it with a sign on it. You can also have limb drops and so on. So maybe we could have some kind of a post and rail fence that would go up to that north fencing and maybe stay off some reasonable distance, 10 feet or so, but try to just limit the walking path right next to the fence, I guess, into the bleachers. Under the bleachers, maybe there's a way to set it on little pedestals and keep it, so the soil is still promotes water and air infiltration.
I hate to see a fence go around the oak. It's
Yeah,
so-
I have
it
another
just
suggestion.
Seems,
Just this past week, I was up at a nursery in Santa Barbara. And what I was looking for, again, to protect my trees, was something that would let the water get into the roots, but at the same time would allow the tree to be free, if you know what I mean. So we went through a whole catalog of stuff, and we both found the one that we want, and they ordered it for me. It wasn't very expensive. I forget what the material is. It's not aluminum, though, because I hate aluminum. But anyway, you could order something like that would have, would do the circumference around the tree, and it would just protect the tree, would get water in it. People would know that they couldn't, disturb the tree, etc.
So is it kind of a mat that goes on the ground, or is it something vertical, like a sort of a fence type
No,
thing?
it is. It goes on the ground, but it is, fairly vertical. I mean, so that it means something. It's not flat. In other words, so I can't wait to see it. I'm going to probably go up next week and pick
Right.
it up.
If you have a photograph of that, be interesting.
I'll take
Yeah.
a photograph of it.
I know
But
we've done some post and rail, which is kind of a nice rural look, and it's not too bad. And really, people can move through it, so if there's kids playing around, they can go in. But it keeps the majority of people out, and it also creates kind of a delineator. We can put a lot more mulch on the inside and
Right.
grass on the outside. And
Right.
Things, yeah.
Right. So much of it is the view, oh, that's there. We're, not going to go near that. I mean,
So
I think we should do everything we can to protect that tree.
I know there was even an old plan we ran into. They put curbs around quite a few of the trees, like 25 years or so ago. And they upgraded the field at the same time and so on. So that was, I think, to try to create that barrier, to
Yeah.
not irrigate on the inside of that
Yeah.
too. And so, yeah, if you do have
I
a
will.
photograph, and
I will.
I'll talk to arborists too about options
yeah.
to fencing.
Yeah. I'll also get the name of it because it has a certain, it wasn't easy to find, but it's there.
Yeah.
So I'll get
Okay,
the name
sure.
of it. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So, any other questions, or we're good for next month?
And if I could throw out an unrelated topic just to let you know, part of the Ojai Civic Association donation was to support the replacement of those two wood light poles at Field 1. So we're proceeding with that plan. I know we've already
Excellent.
discussed it here
Yeah.
before, and we were waiting for funding.
Okay.
I think in the CIP, we reviewed it as well.
So you got all the
So-
funding at once. You're going to get all that at the
Right.
same time. Okay.
And even they promoted, hey, sounds like a good idea to move ahead with the wooden poles sooner than later. So we have that one ready, and we're going to advertise it this Sunday and try to get council and get it replaced. So that would be the 70-foot Musco poles, the steel poles.
Good.
So those hopefully, we're coordinating with Renee to try to take the gap when there's no softball play, middle of May, right?
I think we decided May, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're
Reach
going
out
to,
with Allison too. of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
yep. So anyways, that's coming up
Exciting.
too. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're making
Thanks.
making progress.
Thanks for moving
Yes.
this forward.
Thanks for
Exciting.
coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Recreation staff report updates, item 9.
Actually, yeah, so now we do have that report, so we could, after Greg, it was scheduled to do approval of minutes, I believe.
Oh, you're right, sorry. Approval of minutes, and we have those. Yep. So, anybody?
First and seconds? Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Great, great.
I'll move to approve the December 5th minutes as is.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so those are approved. Thank you very much. Since we have our
I think
speaker.
Ryan just did.
Oh, okay. Since we have, all of our speakers' cards are about one particular item, I would like to, if it works for the rest of the commission, move forward item 9B, which is under recreation staff reports, pickleball update and mitigation efforts. Is everybody okay with that? All right.
So we moved public comments.
We didn't move public comments. Public comments in the beginning was only unagendized items,
Okay.
and everyone's cards were for agenda item 9B.
Okay. And we have all the speaker cards in?
Right.
So do you want to hear the speakers first, or?
Well,
No, usually we get the staff report first.
yeah, staff report should be first.
Okay, so do you want me just to do item B?
Yes, please. I think we'll skip to that because I think everyone here is okay with that. We'll move on to that, and then we'll come back to the other items.
All right, so the mitigation efforts on pickleball is just a update what staff is working on. And it would mean that we've had a lot of great comments, and we did have one comment, and these are all from neighbors about pickleball, and because we just started, the pickleball players started around 3 weeks ago, playing out in the out here at City Hall on the new court. And so the mitigation means that we're just going to consider things with sound and different types of ball use. And so one of the things that we've done, I ordered, it's a little bit lower, it does not emit as much of a peck sound, and so I ordered the ball today, a pack of them, and so the ambassador, Tim, and myself will try it out and see if it is any less noise, what the impact is of the ball, and how it plays, because it also doesn't play as far, so we have to see if it's desirable and if it would meet the needs of the players. And if it meets the needs and it's a lower sound, if the decibels is enough, if it makes any difference at all. You never trust an advertisement, so I went ahead and ordered them. And then I can
Can you
tell you.
return them?
Yeah, I asked him that. I had to paper check. Said I have to keep the one I used. Mitigation efforts also include, which the pickleball club has already done online. They changed the hours. It used to be around 7:30 in the morning, and they changed it to 8 a.m. So they all have also made that change, and that was also part of an effort so that they weren't playing that early in the morning. And then we're also researching hours of play and stuff so there's more to come. It's just the beginning stages. When they started playing the group as well, parking. So there's a parking lot for City Hall, nobody's using it on the weekends. And the city staff is also working on other arrangements to see if other lots are available for parking so that residential parking is minimized. And
Renee, refresh my memory on who owns the lot right across, where traditionally the sheriff's department parks. Is that on lease to them, do you know?
I don't know. I know that that is part of the discussion as well.
Can we back up a little bit? I've been away, so I would like to have, like an update. Were there complaints about the noise?
There's
or
only one.
Only one complaint? Okay.
So
Well,
before we
I
have
don't.
discussion, I
Yeah.
think we need to finish the report and then open for public comment. And then we'll be able to have,
Well, I mean, I don't, I'd like to know before.
Well,
Can you
just
do that?
Quickly summarize.
Thank you.
The pickleball courts they're not complete yet. We're still waiting for a few more coats to actually finish it. The city and the club worked really hard and made it a playing surface. And we can't finish the project until it stops raining because it needs like another 3 coats or so, and it takes a while. So we're thinking like June they'll finally be done. Perfect. But right now they're playable. So they're around, Tim, maybe 25, 30 members that are playing, that are part of a club. And it's not just open for the club. We just happen to have, the efforts were already here. They've been playing for years at like Matilaha and
Right,
other places.
right,
So
right.
anyway, so the rec department would like to do recreation gameplay and lessons basically. Because it's it's a very popular sport around the country, and it's just another avenue to keep in shape. And so that's
So the rec is going to be really involved in it then, is what you're saying, right?
correct. And then, so we'll be teaching classes, and then as people see that there's a court here, more of the community will be playing. It will grow. And so that's also part of things that we're looking into. There are only, Tim, are there 4 courts?
Excuse me?
4 courts?
Yes.
So 16 people can play on it. So 4 people for each court, 16 total,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And then the mitigation efforts are just to take preventative measures, to do as much research as we can for all kinds of.
What kind of responsibility does the rec department have, though, if you're going to be that involved in it, with the teaching and all that other business? Have you looked into that?
Well, right now, we're only teaching one. We're hiring a contractor, and that contractor will be teaching for the rec department.
so I
It
would,
will only be like one.
sorry to interrupt, I'd like to open it up to public comment.
Great.
And then we'll come back for discussion. So the first speaker's card I have is Renee Roth. I hope I got that right.
I thought I was gonna go left.
Or alphabetical.
Am I supposed to shuffle them? Sorry.
Hi, my name's Renee Roth. Welcome, Renee, to the city of Ojai. I guess you're the new Park and Rec
Correct.
director, so great to have you. I just want to say I'm new to pickleball. My husband has been playing much longer than myself. But it is so much fun. I really want to recommend you all get out there and try it. I think we have to have the city council out and have you all out and have, everybody be able to get a chance to see how easy it is to play and how forgiving it is, and everybody makes mistakes, but you have such a good time. It's really a good thing. So I guess, I don't know where you are at with this whole process, but I would hope that pickleball could become something that would be part of the long-term master plan for facilities and commitments by the city, because this really is a sport that anybody can put a racket in their hand and start playing. And it's very forgiving. It's very, very easy to, it's not like tennis, and I used to play tennis. So I just want you to know, I think it's going to grow and continue. We have people who've come in who I think are staying at the inn or from out of town, and they're so happy to have a pickleball place to come and play. It's happening all over the country. And I had no idea it was such a big thing. So anyway, I just want to support it, and I want to think that we could hopefully have long-term the courts that could be in place where there isn't this kind of friction between making noise and having fun and playing recreational and the neighbors. I'm hoping that we can look for something more permanent or long-term where this doesn't come up or become an issue. Or maybe there's a way to transition some of the other courts that are around town into a temporary use for pickleball until we have a long-term facility. So, thank you.
Thank you. Renee, do you want to use the timer? Is it not set up?
It's not set up, I don't, unless we have an issue.
Okay.
It's up to you as the chair.
Well, if we don't have it, then we can't use it. Randy Roth,
We have
please.
our phones, I can.
Yeah.
My wife has said eloquently what I was gonna say.
So you're a ditto, okay. Thank you. Tim Kraut.
Good evening. I just wanted to address the 9B pickleball update and mitigation. If we're talking about using a ball that is foam or a sponge ball, that's not going to be the same ball. That's not pickleball, okay? That would be Nerf ball. So I wouldn't want to teach my students playing with a different ball than what the game actually uses. It'd be like a soccer coach deflating the soccer ball and teaching his kids soccer, or a basketball that was deflated and teaching their kids basketball. It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't work. So this ball that we're thinking about using, I would not want to teach my students with that ball, because it wouldn't be fair to them. I hear that we got a complaint. So far, 2 of the neighbors have come over, and I've played with them already, and they really enjoy it. So I'm hoping the rest of the neighbors will come over, and we'll gladly accept them and show them the game and have fun. Again, this is a park, similar to Libby. You have park signs down here, 6 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
We're not there at 6 a.m.
Right.
We're there at 8 a.m. And we're not there till 11 p.m. We're there for 2.5 hours. We're out of there at 5:30 because we don't have lights like Libby does. So
If I could, I just interrupt him?
Sure.
So what are the hours, actually?
what are the hours?
Yeah, to play?
The hours are Monday through Thursday,
Yeah,
8 a.m. till noon. Nobody has come at that time. 3 p.m. to 5.
3 to 5.
There's been a few. There's been a few in the mornings. But right now, we don't really have a morning crowd per se. Saturday, 8 a.m. till noon.
Okay. Yeah, I
But
mean,
it is-
that's not,
But it is a public court, so it's available 7 days a week.
yeah. Mm-hmm. But what you're saying is that people usually come
Mhm.
in the afternoon?
Correct. We had,
Is it that because they were used to Matilaha playing in the afternoon, or does that have anything to do with it?
no, it doesn't have
No.
anything to do with it. Actually, we're having more now. We're getting people stopping on the road and getting out and asking what's going on. I had, last week, a gal stopped her car, got from across the street, came over and asked me some questions. She said, I'm a tennis player, and I have 3 gals that want to learn this game. When can I play? And I said, it's a public park. It's open 7 days a
See, a
week.
lot of people don't realize that, Tim, that it is public. They don't realize that.
And I'd like to clarify, currently, right now, Tim has built a pickleball club, and you are correct. When we the courts are available all day for all times. The pickleball club doesn't have exclusive use during these times. And so the hours that you mentioned are really not the hours for the park. And that's another thing that we're working on, are signs for the
Okay.
park. And so actually I'm developing, it's on our agenda right now for the signs. And the example is with the pickleball court. So on this we'll be talking, the council will also be discussing this, but right now it's 8:00 a.m. till whatever hours it decide, or maybe it's not going to be 8 a.m., but it's just a discussion right now. And so there's no real, there are no set hours right now. There may be set hours with the club, but there's no exclusive use. So it's just first come, first serve.
Right.
So if somebody who isn't like a regular member of the club comes in and wants to play pickleball, they're welcome to do so?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The temporary nets that are out there right now
Yep.
belong to the club. They're out there right now.
All right.
So if you want to go out there and use them, you're welcome to. And anybody else that wants to come there.
The setting's gorgeous. I walked down there myself. It's beautiful. It's
Well,
a
let's save.
beautiful setting.
Let's try and save some of this for our comment time, so
Yep,
that we can
yep,
keep
yep,
it going.
yep.
Okay. Anything else, Tim?
No, that's
Okay.
it. Thanks.
Thank you. Lisa Laramendi.
I'm up here for support. This is my niece, Tanya, and I'm Lisa Laramendi, and I've lived in this valley for 60 years. I've raised my family here, and my niece is here, and we are playing pickleball now as a family. My son started playing when he was in college in Arizona, and he came back. He still plays. He's at Cal State LA. He plays in LA, and when he's home, we all play. Tanya plays, my sister plays, my sister's son, Tanya's kids, and I just really want the council to appreciate how important this sport is to older women who have never played a sport in their life can play pickleball. And I also talked to my son tonight about a different ball, and he said, you know, it wouldn't be pickleball if you're using a Nerf ball. So I just want the council to know that. And we're there very limited hours. Even though the courts are open, we're not playing on them that much. So that's all I wanted to say. Tanya?
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks.
Thank you. And our last card is from Dr. Serena Pellarolo, if I got that right.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you for, I'm appreciative of the pickleball courts that we have here by City Hall. I have to say that I started playing 2 months ago, and I really love it. I'm 65 years old, and I have never played tennis before, and I am super excited. Tim has created an incredible community out of the goodness of his heart. There's no fees. He's always there. He's always available for us to learn. It's a very beautiful community. People are we have created friends. I didn't know these people before I started. And I have to say that it is a game that's, although it is an intergenerational game, most of the people who play are elders, are seniors. So it is a resource for many of the seniors. This city has a lot of seniors, elders. I've seen a lot of them spending most of their time in front of the TV. And this is a resource for us to come out and play. I also would like to address the fact that it is my knowledge, because I was told that we tried to have pickleball courts at Libby Park, and that was not accepted. We were at the middle school, and we were sort of kicked out from there too. So from my point of view, I see it as a discrimination against elders, because most of the players are elders. So that's how I see it. I don't have statistics, but most of the players are seniors. Mm-hmm. So I would really ask this council and the city council to consider the fact that this is I think, a right for elder citizens to be able to exercise and be healthy and not couch potatoes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more card for Ron McCree. Hopefully I pronounced that right.
Yeah, I would like to say something. I agree that the pickleball game is great. Everybody says it's fun and they want to do it, but not in my neighborhood. Do you ever go outside and listen to that stuff? I live down the street. That banging is constantly bang, 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 bang. If you go on the internet and just Google anything that says pickleball nuisance, all over Newport Beach are suing people. There are people coming in there living next door. They have no idea what to stop this noise. It's great. It's a great. I agree. But the noise is driving you crazy. If you live around here, you can't live in your house. I go into my house down the street. You can't. You go and close all the doors and the windows. You can still hear that pop, 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 pop. Oh, it's a great sport. Yes, it is, but not in my neighborhood. I've been there for 30 years, and I helped build the demonstration garden. People thought that place was supposed to be quiet and peaceful. They come out there and they sit down and it's quiet, and they read their books and they do a compost demonstration. For years it's been nice. But now it's right in the middle of the demonstration garden. And you can't go over there and plant your vegetable garden. You can't be quiet. It's not going to quiet anymore. If you might as well put a skateboard in there. You got plenty of room. The noise is just disgusting. If you can just... Have any of you looked on the internet and said, pickleball, noise, that's just, the people are just, you're having fun, but not in my neighborhood, for Christ's sakes. How can those people across the street listen to that all day long, that pop, the pop, the pop? It's, if I'm a real estate broker, I've been a broker here for 25 years or more, that value of the house has gone down. If my house, I've been there for 35 years. If that was for sale, I wouldn't buy that house at all. No way. If it was for rent, I wouldn't rent it because of the noise. It's just driving me nuts. And it's a great sport. Great. Why don't you go over to Soul Park or find someplace else that's not in front of people's houses? There's all of these people around here hear that pop, pop, pop all day long. And when they go on to dusk, pretty soon dusk is going to be 8 o'clock in the night. They start in the morning. That doesn't bother so much, but they don't stop. It's not like tennis, where you hit a ball and two people go. There are 8 people all of the time. They never stop. It's just pop, pop, pop. Yeah, it's driving me nuts, and everybody across the street is. Anyways, I appreciate this sport. It's a great sport. It's growing. In California, they never even heard of it 10 years ago. They started. But anybody, I asked, you're going to play pickleball? They don't know what it is. And I don't think the council knew what it was before they took this place over here and said it's okay for that noise. The noise is unbelievable.
I would like to say something
Sure,
regarding
go
that.
ahead.
When we had our discussion before about using Libby as for pickleball, that was the biggest thing with all the neighbors as well. And you remember that, Tim? We had
2 neighbors.
No. We had a full house that night here in the because people were very concerned about that. They were very fearful of that. So, I totally appreciate your point of view. Tim has worked really hard on getting this program going. I have gone down there twice to look at it. It's very attractive, which is what they've done.
Commissioner
But,
Cooper,
excuse me, I'm sorry, I want to finish this
We are not
first.
supposed to have a back and forth with them. We're taking public comment, and then there'll be a time for, if we could ask questions if we have questions, but we're not supposed to be having a back and forth discussion during this time.
Well, there's some disagreement too, so maybe we'll get to that, I hope.
No,
Will we have time for that?
Well, it's just during this portion of the meeting, which is public comment. Each person is welcome to come up and comment. If we have a clarifying question, that's okay to ask. But if we are making statements out, this isn't the appropriate time to do that.
Well, I think that if Renee is looking into all these other solutions, like another ball, and the time frame,
Well,
I think they should
This
be
isn't,
addressed.
this isn't about the issues, this is about the timing of the discussion that we're having. Because as this is public comment time, if you have a specific question to ask someone who's making a comment, that's okay. But to make statements during that time is not an appropriate time to do that. It's not part of the way that the meeting is supposed to run.
I cannot live to that noise, I swear. Go online and sick, but everybody says about when they took this kind of thing into your neighborhood, no one told anybody that this was gonna happen. You wake up one morning and all of a sudden you get this pound, 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 all day long. I don't go home. I can't even go home until 5 o'clock because that's when, now it's 5:30 because it's getting later. And if it gets 8 o'clock, they'll still be there. I can't go into my house. I can close the doors and the windows, and I hear this pound, pound. It's a fun game. Go across the street and ask these people whether they like it. You tell me you would like me coming to your neighborhood and start making all that noise. If a bunch of kids did that noise, these people will come out and say, shut up and get the hell out of here. You're making too much noise. I'm sorry, I will speak again here at the next city council next week, but I have a lot of people, one complaint you said, and that's all I can say. Thank you. I'm sorry for you taking your time.
Thank you. Okay, now, my next question on this is not on our agenda as a discussion item. This is on our agenda as a staff report. So it seems to me that to open a discussion, we need to put it back on our agenda next month as a discussion item. But
Well,
tell
I
me
think
what
it
you're
should be.
thinking as part of, because we took comment and we needed to take comment because it's a public, item. But
It's just agendized in a different area.
it's not in an area where we should be having an active discussion as a body.
I think technically that's right. I think it would be helpful to at least kind of establish what we want to discuss next month. Maybe not get into the discussion, but at least is anybody going to do some homework in the meantime? Like, what are we going to discuss?
Sounds like staff's already working on it.
Correct, and I believe that the city manager will be reporting some at a future, a little bit about pickleball and the mitigation efforts and everything in the next or upcoming council meeting. So
Before
it
our
probably will
meeting.
happen before our meeting.
Okay.
And of course, yes, and then it will, we will leave it up to council whether it goes back to
Us.
to the commission
commission.
or, right.
Okay,
Didn't we at some point discuss having some type of partition with
but this is
fines?
discussing the,
Mhm.
I think,
That is also part of it.
I think that it's not a discussion item for us tonight. If-
Are we, as members of this Park and Recreation Commission, are we permitted to go to council and
Yes.
request? Because that's what I think
You
we
are
should do, so
welcome to-
that we get some concrete answers, which, we're obviously not getting, so.
I'm not clear that that's
Yeah.
the situation.
Well,
I think
I've
this
been
is
cut
evolving
off
and is
3 or 4 times
new.
tonight, so, and I just didn't, I wasn't aware of what was going on, because I haven't
Well,
been here. And
This is recent.
It's very
And
recent.
so the council, the city manager will be, updating the council, so they don't have any answers right now or anything. That's up to the staff to provide the reports and.
Staff is currently working on this item.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if it's okay with the rest, I think we should move on and move back up to 9A.
could I just ask one question? When you say the staff, is that just you, or is Allison involved? And who is involved in just the staff that you're referring to?
Myself and the city manager and other possibly administration staff. We had just started this.
This came up at council
And
and
this-
direction came from council, right?
At the last council meeting, they had a few questions to ask, and so staff is doing the best that we can to bring up questions and answers, and any kind of research that we've done and all that. So right now, we're just putting everything together as well, And this, the complaint is fairly new.
Yeah,
It sounds like
like it sounds like it's gonna,
things are developing, and at some point, if
Yep.
there's something that we should weigh in on, we'll have an opportunity.
well, I mean, so that everybody, everybody is happy, and so we don't make, some very grievous errors and then have many people that live in the area, get very angry. I mean, there are a lot of things that probably could be done, but, and they should be done quickly because, the hours will be, increased and it will get towards early evening and just like that gentleman said. So, I mean, this needs to be addressed soon.
And it is being actively right now.
Well, not as much as it should be right now. Yeah.
Okay, but we're going to move on.
Can we please go
Yes.
back to,
Thank you.
Thank you.
can we go back to 8A, since we do have the
Yes,
report?
we now have the appropriate materials for 8A, so we are going to go back to 8A, which is the
Apologize for the typo in the very first.
Park staff recommendations for facility fee increase.
Started off
Thank you.
right.
And cancellation policy.
Thank you.
At the December 5th meeting, you received the first draft of the facility sport field rental increase recommendations. And there's just 4 items on there, on this report. So number 1, it says it's a 15% increase per hour to the existing sport fields, and a $2 per hour for the use of lights for Field 2. And the explanation's given in the report in a minute. The second thing is to adopt an hourly rate for the snack bar at 20 an hour. In the report, we surveyed other agencies to see what they were charging, because our maintenance fees are way over what we're charging. Implement number 3 to 40% refundable deposits, and
for-
we do not have a cancellation policy.
Is the 40%, that's for like the shade structure areas, is that what?
No, it's for, it would be what you recommend.
No, I'm
mean,
saying, what does it
currently
apply
right
to?
now-
What
Sorry?
is a rental? What do you define, that's the like picnic table areas? Is that what you're referring to when you say rental? Or are you
Correct.
talking about the field rental?
We're not talking about the picnic areas, yeah, right, we're talking about the fields.
Oh, so this is
So
for the fields, not the
40%
picnic. Okay.
Deposit
Yeah, none
on
of
the
them-
fields?
We're not recommending any changes to the gazebos, to the outside picnic areas at all.
So number 3 is a new fee, so that if they're paying $50 to rent the field for a softball game, it's $50 plus an additional 40% of the total cost?
Wow.
Is that,
So let me get to that when we go through the discussion items. That's a good point. So let's start with the first discussion for the fields. And also you have attachment A, which shows you what the current fees are. So as we break it down to the fields, you'll see that the survey shows all the Tri-County areas: Ventura, Oxnard, Simi, Pleasant Valley, Caneo Park and Rex, and Santa Barbara. And you can see that our fields are way under the others. So that's where the recommendation came up. The average was figured out, and then the percentage of 15% increase. The lights explains that, you'll see the lights are on there too, on the same graph. 30 an hour, 25, 22, 23. And currently, we're only recommending to increase one of the fields, because the demand on the light pole is different, and we're not meeting the cost that we have to put out for the lights, for the electricity. So that's a recommendation, because for only field 2. And then the kitchen is another subject
I'm sorry. let me-
before the cancellation policy.
I'm confused by that. So there's a 15% increase on both fields, and then an additional $2 per hour on field 2. Do I have that
So it's a
correct?
15% increase for all the fees for the rentals of the fields. So for
Okay.
classification A, B, C, and yeah.
And
So
this
it would
is
be
the current fee
15% on
schedule.
Correct.
Okay.
It was last revised in 2017, I believe
Okay.
is what it says.
Okay, so then the $2 per hour
That's for
increase is
light.
just for number 2, though?
Correct.
And the first will just stay the same?
The number 1 will remain the same. And then you can also rent both fields 1 and 2. And so when you do that, it will also be another $2 because when you rent 1 and 2 together, because 2 is different, we'd have to change the fees on 1 and 2 when you combine and use both fields.
Okay.
Because 2 is being increased to meet the needs, then meet the demand, then correct.
So what you're saying is that when you rent it, you pay the fees for both, and now 2 will be $2 higher than 1?
You're right. If you
Okay,
just
got it.
decide to do 2 by itself, it's going to be $2 more. 1 is going to remain the same, and when you combine the 2 fields and use both of them, 1 will be the same, and
2 will have you $2
Two
more.
will be-
But it
right,
won't be
so the
$2
fees
more,
will be-
it'll just be its new
Right.
fee.
So
Right.
currently, 1 is $10 an hour and 2 is $8. So it's really just making them both $10 an
$10 an
hour.
hour.
correct.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
And then, so going back to the cancellation policy and a refundable deposit. So first, let's start with, because I don't address the refund policy. First, let's address the cancellation policy.
Okay.
Currently, right now, we don't have any. And so actually, this would affect the rentals. We would like it to also reflect on the rentals outside too, because what happens is people are just canceling last minute.
By the
And-
rentals, you mean the picnic shelters?
Correct.
Okay,
But also the sports fields. If it rains, we give them a refund. There's rain dates and this and that. But if they decide not to use it, and we've turned away other groups, and then they don't, that's why a cancellation policy exists. And last summer, we seemed to, on the picnic rentals, people are just they'll call on a Sunday morning with a Sunday rental and say that they're not using it anymore. And we've turned so many people away to use it because during the spring and summer we're packed. So that I'd like, staff is recommending that we put a cancellation policy in, and it's detailed out so that it's not, it gives a little bit of advantage and a little bit of leeway for the person who's renting. Whereas more than 6 months, you get 75% back. And then which most people are and you can rent the park and the fields within like 6 months. And then it goes down to 50%, then less than 30 days notice, you only get 25% back because you're not going to be able to give it to anybody else. And then it goes to, of course, again, whether
I was going to ask you about
anything like
the
that
weather.
is 100% back.
Okay,
Or usually the groups will just ask they'll use a credit and then use it for the next one they rent.
So if a person has rented it and they're prepared to, have a game, whatever, the next morning, and you get a full rainstorm, what happens?
Well, it's 100% refund.
What if it's drizzling?
We have,
Yeah.
The
if
use
the
of the
fields
word
are closed.
Inclement
inclement
weather.
is,
Inclement
so it
weather.
depends on if we feel
Subjective.
closed.
It is
So
subjective.
Public Works, yeah. We will close the fields if use of the fields are gonna hurt the fields. So people with the soccer and everything on there, it depends on how bad it rained. Believe me, that groups actually want to play. They're begging. So if it sprinkles, they're begging to play. And if we cancel it and we close the parks because of the conditions and we want to keep our parks beautiful, they've been really understanding. But you'll ask the groups and they'll want to play even in the rain. So that's not, it's more on the park side that we're protecting them and telling them, I'm sorry, the fields
Well,
are closed.
also
And Allison will make
liabilities.
those phone calls.
Liabilities. Liabilities is extremely important.
So Allison actually, who's in charge of sports and fields and the rentals, she communicates with Public Works every time it sprinkles, rains, whatever, and they'll communicate together like whether the fields are closed and which ones are closed.
yep.
Okay, well,
And
can
so
we
we
talk
do have
about
one on
that?
the reef. So
okay. Can we
right.
talk about that? Do you want to go through the whole thing and then you want to circle back, or do you want to talk about the cancellation policies and the issues
Yeah.
that I see with that?
Um,
That I'd
so
like
I think
to share.
we just briefly summarize. The only one I haven't hit on was the question that you asked about.
Number 3.
Correct, the 40% refund deposit. So currently, sorry, I don't have, I know that there's a is it a 50, did you say, Susie, that there's a $50, I think there is a $50 deposit currently?
No, I was asked,
don't know.
what I said was, if the deposit was $100 to use the fields, let's say, are you saying that you would also have to pay 40%
Correct.
as a deposit?
Correct, and it's refundable.
Unless
So-
you, and is that refundable if you cancel 6 months in advance, or do you forfeit your deposit as well if you cancel within that 6-month period?
So the suggestion on the cancellation policy, again, it's just a suggestion. And
Well, I
think
mean,
it
are
could
you
be-
treating them as two separate, is it a refundable deposit, 100%? If there's no
correct.
damage, okay, so if you reserve something, you pay the fee, and you're saying 100% of that, the 40% would go back to, if they cancel, within a,
Because it's
less-
100% refundable.
right,
Correct.
If there's
It's
no
not on
damage.
top, it's on top of the rental.
okay.
And that's just a suggestion. I believe right now, so this is just
Seems
for
like
the
the
fields. I think
percentage
on the
amount's gonna
picnic
get really
pavilion-
confusing, instead of just a set fee,
fee.
you know, a fee. It's really seems, this, as a commissioner and someone with a background in this, it's really
Very
confusing. And I can skip ahead and just give you my input on a cancellation notice of 6 months, to receive 75%. That is really aggressive. So perhaps a
Yeah.
non-refundable reservation fee
Right.
at the time of reservation, and you can make it, if you want that fee to be a deterrent, you can raise it. It can be applied towards the cost of the rental, but to 6 months out and only get 75% back, I mean, I just think that is,
And I think, again, this
Too
comes
far.
back to your question of what are we talking about?
well, we're
Because-
talking
no,
about
but
if somebody reserves a shade structure for
Or
a birthday
field
party.
or all- But it's across the board, so I think fields are slightly
where
different
is it?
than the
Here it
shade
is.
structures too.
Well, yeah.
Because the picnic structures within.
I just don't
yeah.
see a family,
No.
wants to have a birthday party
No.
at the shade structure in
This is
June.
not being recommended for a shade structure, for the picnic pavilions. It's just for the
Just for the
fields.
fields.
Just for the sports.
The
fields.
Just the fields.
deposit,
Mhm.
but the
It's
cancellation
Cancellation.
policy.
Cancellation.
policy
It's
is
still the
only one that
cancellation.
has to do with the picnic pavilions.
And that's the one we're talking
And
about.
that's what we're talking about.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because
So-
right now, currently, there's already I believe there's already a deposit on the pavilions, and we're not asking to change
Right,
that.
and that's set, and
Right.
it's working
So
out.
the
If there's
40%
just no-
is just on the fields, number 3.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm talking about item number 4, the implementation of a cancellation policy. So if somebody calls you, which is really unlikely, in January to reserves a picnic pavilion in June for a birthday party, they would, in theory, to even qualify for any type of refund, they would have to book more than 6 months in advance. And I don't know are we even set up for that?
They are. She's booking like a year in advance.
Who's that?
So last September, we knew that we already had a wedding in June at the picnic pavilions.
Certain
People are
types of
already-
events,
Right,
yes, will
certain
book
type
that
of
far in
events.
advance, and then others will not, because family kinds of events,
Birthday party?
all likelihood, it's not going to be that far in advance. I guess my question is, 25% does seem pretty aggressive, and,
Which can be modified by all means. It was just a,
Do we have
Start.
any data on your rate of, for the larger events, do we have any data on any cancellation?
I believe last summer, staff had reported there were 3.
3 large events and 3 how many large events?
Well, there are, depends on what you mean by large, 75 and up.
Mm-hmm, be
And
reasonable.
what is how far in advance do the picnic things typically be, are they reserved?
how about, are they full? Because some of them may reserve almost a year, like that wedding in advance, and then others, when do you usually fill up for the month to come?
Right. Well, in part, I'm thinking at what point is it going to be so close to the day of that you're unlikely to
To rebook it, yeah.
rebook?
Yeah, good question.
I mean, with my experience, it's always like 30 days. 30 days, you won't be able to replace it.
So I think that we should gear the cancellation policy to that.
The 30 days.
Yeah, to the window in which we will lose
Business.
business.
And I also think that having a non-refundable reservation fee is another option to explore. The percentage, gets confusing.
Because you're trying to cover your staff expense in processing the application and all of that. Is that part of it? Because even if someone makes a reservation, you go through the whole process with them and say they cancel it, you've still got staff time sunk into the process of doing that. Is that part of what
Correct.
this is about?
I don't think so.
It's mainly just because of people, we just want them to commit.
Okay,
It's a deterrent to just kind of
Right.
willy-nilly.
having a placeholder reservation
So-
that you know you can just
I
cancel.
like the
So even
booking
if
fee.
it's $50 or whatever it is that you choose, this was
Right.
just a suggestion, the tier. If
So
you-
that
if it's
just is
not
a
tier-
really across-the-board standard practice to have that. So let's just say the user fee's 250. Just, I don't, just for your
Okay.
Your
day
larger-
of booking.
yeah.
And if you cancel less than 30 days in advance, it's a $50 non-refundable reservation fee. I mean, it just seems, so we're keeping that no matter what, and then they get the refund of the 200. And can we also implement some type of waiting list for, obviously not too terribly long, but I just think, 30 days to have a birthday party seems reasonable to call up, or some type of barbecue celebration.
All right, so
What do you mean waiting list, Susie?
Well, she's saying that if they cancel on the 30-day, typically less than 30 days in advance, we're not able to rebook it because people have gone to other venues. But we can have I still think that within a 30-day window, there's opportunities, and
So
we can
people
call
can-
people and say like, hey, Picnic One opened up, would you like to reserve it? It's
Oh,
available
gotcha.
now.
Kind of
Okay.
like when
It
you're trying
happens at
to,
least informally.
yes,
Yes.
that's not a
'Cause-
problem.
'cause
Oh, it does now.
That's not a problem, that's easy.
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
like when you call the dentist and you want to
Yeah.
get in and you can't, and they
Yeah,
put you on their call
cancellations.
list.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they are
that-
already kind
that's
of
not a
doing
problem,
that.
we can
Okay.
do that. So, I think this is something that we have to take action on to go to, if you're recommending an
recommendation.
increase of, or cancellation policy or anything to council. So could you please, if you could repeat what you are suggesting?
Well, I'm still in the discussion. I'm just, I want to hear what others think. I mean, I just think a 6-month, 25% hit, I just, without any data on how far in advance the majority of the people are booking and canceling, it's hard to, we're kind of guessing, but I just think that a 25% deduction off of your deposit 6 months out is pretty severe.
If
I
you
do
would like,
too.
I can give you options.
I
We
do
we can table this, and then I can research it.
Yeah, that's
With
like,
other
empirical
agencies.
data would be
And then
helpful
I
to
think
can
it
have.
would be
give you
helpful,
options,
because
and then we
it's
can come
just,
back.
yeah,
Yeah,
do
and-
that.
Is that okay?
And then part of it's looking for the reservation fee model. and
Yeah.
Look at how that works, yeah.
And
I think my input towards the fee structure, a 15% increase, given that we haven't raised fees in a considerable amount of time, is reasonable. And then I'd just like to plant the seed of a more moderate, maybe 2 to 3% increase more regularly, so that the public isn't hit, with, oh my gosh, the rec department went up 15%.
Exactly.
That is a large jump.
It is.
But when you are playing catch-up, there is that 1 year of explanation for the public. But I think that's something that we could look at annually on a small, even 1%.
I'd go along with that. Yep.
Then I think, and it isn't mentioned in 1 through 4, but after reading everything today, on the snack bar, are we dealing with that tonight, or is that a
It's
separate
on
issue?
here.
Correct. No, this is on here too.
Yeah, it is on.
So the snack bar, we put a lot of money in it in the last 7 months, and currently the fees for rental, for a caterer that has let's say that they have a business and they're using the kitchen, is minimal. So that's why we did a survey on the surrounding kitchens available to rent. Because we're not covering the cost for.
And it says you're
the
not being used for
refrigerator,
the
the
sports?
freezer.
They're
Sorry?
not using them for sports anymore?
No,
Not recently.
they haven't used it in years.
Yeah.
My kids really like that. Is that because we don't have a vendor?
The staff said the clubs didn't want to use it anymore.
Right, and they've had difficulties getting vendors over the years and keeping vendors, and
So we do, we have like a couple of camps, like cooking camps and stuff out of there during the summer, but there has been interest with caterers and everything to use it off-season, and
if we were, is there a difference between someone who wants to use it in a very limited run and then someone who wants to have a longer-term agreement? Because the hourly rate absolutely makes sense if someone wants to come in for 3 to 4 days and use it, and that's fine. But if you wanted to enter into a longer-term situation and lease it for maybe 5 months, it seems like there should be a rate for that, because if you're leasing to one person for 5 months, $50 an hour seems an odd way to portion that out.
So it was $20 an hour if under 50 hours a month that you were using it, and only 15 hours, only $15 per hour if you're using it over 50 hours. And that accommodates what you had just suggested.
So if you
See, what would
rented
that
it
come
out
to
for
be?
5 months, you'd specify how many hours per day you were going to use it,
It's just an odd way to
Per
do it.
month, and it's 15.
and then you
It was,
multiply by 15.
it was taken, I mean, there are like, so that you can see on the survey that there's different examples, and that was just one kitchen in Ventura. So if you look back at the, or maybe, let's see.
Yeah, I mean,
That would come out
you
of
could
Co-op
just,
kitchen,
It's like $3,600 a
that-
month.
the co-op kitchen is the
Or
one that does it
commercial
like
kitchen.
that. You could choose to go with, Fillmore only does it with a $50 deposit and $100 per day, although that becomes more expensive.
It's like
than the way that
$3,000 a month.
We're recommended.
It-
Yeah, that would be way,
This is why I don't
this
understand
is
it.
really not good for long-term.
Which is the question is, do we want long-term? Because if we could get a good long-term tenant and do 5 months of the year,
What's our
So the
that might be
pers-
really good for us.
So the person who, she was leasing it before I came, and it was a year lease. And currently, right now, I think the fee is $250 to $350 a month, and so she was paying in that range.
and this
So
is
you're,
10 times as much.
yeah,
Yes,
that's
10
a
times, it's a huge
increase.
bump.
Which
It's
I-
not, we're supposed to cover our costs, and I think that goes beyond that. That
Goes
increment
from
of,
$4,200 a year
Well,
to.
how much money have you put into the snack bar in the
43,000.
last 7 months? And what for? Is it maintenance? or-
Yeah, the freezer, the refrigerator, maintenance, health department permit,
Is
which we
this-
would have to have anyway.
This,
That would be a Miguel building maintenance. I don't know. I know $750 for the ice maker. It was another $800 for the freezer
Yeah, but
we're not
you
talking
can't really-
$10,000,
it's
we're
like-
talking 4,000, something more in that range. We don't know, but
She can't really penalize the renter for lack of
Right.
ongoing maintenance and upgrading, you know.
And the
I mean, we do
age,
want to,
yeah.
those are more like capital purchases that we would have, if
But-
we were using it as a rental facility. Those are city expenses, I think, and I think you certainly want to factor them in, maybe if they're happening every 10 years. But I don't think that going from $350 a month to $3,000 or $3,600 a month, I don't even think I don't think you're going
Oh, I
to
don't
get
know.
a renter in there.
No.
And I think there is a lot of value in a long-term renter
Yes.
as far as care of the equipment and use of the facilities to be able to find that balance, if you will, for having a long-term renter, covering costs, and maximizing the use of the facility.
I think 250 is low. I'm not in no, I think that we need to change that. I don't disagree with the need to increase that fee. I just think that going from a fixed to strictly hourly doesn't accommodate all the situations that we might run into.
Yeah, I think as it's written, it's like 2/3 of the way there, right? You've got like very low use, you've got kind of moderate
Right.
use, but then also like the monthly is like the the longer
Third
term.
category, yeah.
And for that, I don't know what a commercial kitchen of that size would cost to rent, but that might be,
So the survey was done on that size kitchen.
okay.
It
And what were
compared
the
the same
costs?
size as us. And so under that chart of the 4 different agencies, that's what they charge. So I should have
Oh,
probably
okay.
done option 1, 2, 3, 4.
And these were
You know,
just
again,
daily.
on these, I could have given you options.
Right.
But you can see the fee structure right here.
Right. I think we're just
Page
missing
2
a
and-
monthly.
Yeah.
These are all kind
Yeah,
of
because we
shorter.
didn't find any that
Right.
were
Okay.
monthly.
But I do think, if monthly rental is a good fit,
because of the care of the facility and whatnot, then it seems like we could work with staff to figure out what does it really cost to maintain the kitchen long term, which does include replacing equipment,
Yeah.
you know, on,
And we can
on
get
a
together with,
schedule.
PW to figure
Right,
that out.
and
the costs
basing a
then come
monthly
back.
fee on that might be more reasonable.
Do we have groups now that have expressed an interest in, I know we had the one and we lost that tenant, right? So.
We only lost it because we're still actually closed by the health department.
Right, okay. So would she would, but I mean, she obviously wouldn't be interested in coming back if her rent was $350 and it's $3,000.
Well, not that kind.
So, right. I'm just curious, I'd like to get a feel for other monthly, not necessarily monthly, long-term leases, even, 6 months to a year. I just think that our investment will be better cared for with a long-term tenant.
I also think there's less staff time involved.
Yeah,
If you
of
have the
course.
opportunity to
And do
do
we
that.
allow subleasing? Is that part of their contract? So if somebody wants to, let's just say she has it for the, 6 months or whatever, and she's not actually using it for something, is she allowed, is that part of her contract? I'm just, because I'm,
She'd have to bring everything out.
That would be
Okay.
really
So she
hard.
couldn't-
no, I just want to make sure she's not going to be
that.
doing
You want to make
that.
sure it's not
Because
able
if,
to do that.
because that's what I think you're going to run into. If you make the rent too high
Yeah.
for it to be affordable for a long-term renter, you're going to find that, that it ends up getting sublet underneath, with us maybe not even knowing and shared, yes. And I think that's one thing you want to avoid. So we don't want to be in that situation when we have that happening.
Why did she leave?
She's just found a temporary position somewhere else because
Oh.
we're just trying to get everything up to compliance.
Oh, okay.
We lost our permit to operate, so it wasn't her, she didn't leave by choice. She left because she
Oh.
had to. Health
When did
department.
that happen?
When did we get shut down?
Pretty much after health department came in like around July, I think, August.
So it was after that?
Mhm.
Oh,
So I think one more category.
what?
One more category for the schedule
yeah.
of fees.
So,
6
right,
months or
so
more.
I can give you, we can go out of the tri-county area to look at some monthly, since we couldn't
Could-
find anything
Could
local,
we also
but we
come up
could
with
look
our
it out.
own?
Yeah.
I think we can come up with our
So-
own. I don't think we have to source what someone else did.
I think also because this is a public space, so
You need to keep it, yeah.
um, yeah, probably our prices would be lower than like just a commercial kitchen available
Right.
for
Oh,
rent.
for sure.
But I think working with Public Works to estimate
Mhm.
annually what it costs to maintain the
They would
space,
know.
and then
Sure.
coming up with a monthly price
Yep.
relative to that would be.
And
Good.
I would be inclined to say month to month and not a 6-month lease, because I think it should always be available to rec first.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that whatever you're doing is a month-to-month situation, because if you come up with some great program and you need it back, I think that's its first and best
that's
use
fair.
is for the rec department, but to have the opportunity to do the other is nice as
Yeah,
well.
that would be a change. The lease is always, from what I read, the old lease, it's always been, it was 8 months, so.
Well, I put
Would
that back
be
to you as a
change.
question. I don't, as a director, how much leeway do
Well,
you
you
want
don't
to have
want to make
access?
a lot
Well,
of changes either. you know.
It's 8 months because the other 4 we use it for, when we have that planned ahead of time. Do you anticipate
Most
that those
likely.
classes are going
I
to be more
think it's also
popular?
because I don't think the caterer wanted to use it during the other times. I don't think it was the manager's part to do that. I think it was the caterer.
Okay. That just worked for.
Yeah, it just worked out for the
Okay.
caterer.
As long as we
yeah.
are taking that into consideration as we're making our durations of.
Yeah, so we can come back and I definitely can get together with Public Works and we can really work out like how much is this costing us and
Yeah.
the
to
la-
maintain it. But there is one other thing on here, and it discusses a cleaning.
And it-
That was our problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what caused our problem.
Right,
And was
right.
the cleaning wasn't done.
Mhm.
And
The deep cleaning, I think you referred
right,
to it
we
as,
need
right?
a deep cleaning, and so we can trust the companies to do them, or we can use our cleaning service that we have contracted with the city. And that person happens like currently right now she's charging $350. She charged us $350
Per deep clean.
to deep clean, which was not charged onto the renter and never has. And so
Well, it shouldn't be when you think about it.
How
I think it
often does that
should.
have to occur?
That's my question is, how often do you need to deep clean? This isn't
Oh,
every
right.
rental, this is,
8 months when she's finished with her
Yeah,
rental.
right.
okay.
Right.
That's fine. It just,
Yeah.
it says on here at the end of their, at the end of the
the end of
contract, at
their
the end of the
contract,
service,
yeah.
right?
My confusion on that, though, is what about the day use people?
Right.
How are we accommodating for
Yeah,
them?
we don't really, I can't see, we don't have a day use right now in there. If you wanted to add, that would be something that the commission would have to add to the fee schedule.
Oh, so
that's
that,
why-
okay, so
I
this
guess
is very
that's what we're
confusing to me.
confusing. Yeah, because you're saying, I took it as when you were discussing it, that hourly thing was somebody who could come in and rent it for an hour. But you're saying that that's really.
But there's a minimum of some sort that isn't
Under
clear.
50.
enough.
We could clear that up and say that there's a minimum. I mean, no, they're not gonna come in and use it for an hour. These are caterers that
No,
want to
hours.
use it for
Like they have to have
by
a
monthly basis.
assigned kitchen
Oh.
type of thing for
Well,
their
So
catering permit.
if,
Right.
if our intent is really just monthly, then we should just have a
Yeah,
monthly rate. We
agreed.
shouldn't have hourly rates at all.
It's-
If we do want to rent it out, by the day or part of the day, which is what this sounds like, then
Yeah.
yeah, we should have hourly rates.
Which is also a very different beast to manage.
Right.
Well,
If you're gonna do, because people can go rent 4 hours in kitchens, and in fact, interesting, a place that rents out their kitchen that's local is the Oakview Community Center. You might wanna
Yeah,
talk
like
to
for the
them,
Lions
because they
Club
actually
and-
rent that kitchen out commercially and for
Yeah, I
other
have
events.
Oakview County Park on here, and it's $10 to $15 per hour.
Oh, that's, okay, that's what that is, okay.
But I do have a couple per day on here. Fillmore does $100 per day, and that makes sense, not when you're a caterer, there would be like thousands because you're using it every day
Every
for
day.
8 months. But that makes sense for a day rental.
Right.
So, it could be organized just like the master schedule is right now. Like, if you look at, this is organized like that, where you look at the gym, or you look at the rec room, that they, in 2017, they adopted something per day and also something per hour. So they have a daily and an hourly.
It implies, though, that you're willing to do hourly.
Yeah. So if I wanted to rent out the kitchen for 4 hours,
Then
Yeah,
you
and-
could do an hourly rate,
Right.
but it wouldn't be
And-
cost effective to do
and-
that by the day.
But
right?
thinking about the cleaning,
but right, would I have to pay a $350 service
to
fee?
see that's why,
That's the
But
question.
this is why I think from a management perspective, we have to be very crystal clear about this. If you're putting in the hourly rate, somebody who decides they want a can for a day could say, hey, I'm a person, I want to can my own food, and get in there.
Make
And
jam
there are
and
places
sticky
to,
everywhere.
well, and there are places that do that, but I don't think that's us, because it takes it takes so much staff time that I don't think it doesn't make sense.
correct. So
Yeah.
we can look in, I'll definitely get together Public Works and we can bring this back.
Yeah, and I think really if the intent here is just to rent it out monthly, then we should just have a monthly rate, and it
It
shouldn't.
seems a lot less risky.
What about what are your ideas on the cleaning?
I
So
think you have to factor that into the overall cost and then figure out what you need to charge monthly to cover our costs.
well, how often does the cleaning need to happen? And-
Right after the event.
Right
Well,
after they
I have a
leave.
question. Why aren't we doing a deposit? And then we keep it if it isn't properly cleaned? Because that's what these other organizations are doing. They're doing, like Fillmore does a $50. Oakview County Park does $225 to $500, probably depending on, because that would cover if they broke equipment. That would cover the cleaning, I think.
And stipulate in their agreement that they're in charge of the deep cleaning, and we'll return their deposit if it's done properly. Is that what you're saying?
No, I actually thought about doing that, but then we would be back and forth with the caterer or with the person using it. You didn't clean this, you didn't clean that.
Yeah,
Here's a checklist.
You've got to make
So
something
we, as the
absolutely
staff,
simple.
we thought it would be better, right, just
Straightforward,
to
right.
charge them amount that our
Yeah.
cleaning persons.
Yeah,
Right.
If you have
I
the
agree.
same renter in there for that 8-month period, it's a one-time fee of $350. But if you have 8 different renters, it's $350 a month.
So it's in addition to whatever you're charging them, you're
Yeah.
gonna charge them
That
another
seems-
$350.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
every time there's a turnover of a renter, it has to be deep cleaned. Is
Is-
that what the permit stipulates?
That's what I want to know. Is it, like, if I rented it for
doesn't
3
make sense.
months, how often does it have to be deep cleaned? Is it just at the end of my term?
And
or-
the
It's
end
at
of
the
the
end of your
term,
term.
the end of the
So
term.
that's what the
like
fee should be
everybody
for
does.
forever, however long you
another,
rent it.
That's what
Um,
that, but
suggestion.
that's what
Be a
it
cleaning fee
says
at the end of
in
it.
here.
So have we ever done have we ever put out like an RFP for a?
Other cleaning services for
No,
that?
for a vendor, to come in and rent it.
Yes.
And so why wouldn't we just, instead of having all these different fees, Why can't we just solicit for, somebody to rent it for the year? Like, why can't we just, request what people are willing to,
For the year, because I need it for,
or 8 months, excuse me, for the 8 months? Instead of dealing with month to month and figure out when it is you want to lease it, put it out there, accept proposals back, and then award it to, the most desirable applicant.
Well, you're asking a lot, too.
Or
I don't believe any, I'm not aware that anybody else has asked for the use of it.
Many, many,
You have
many,
to advertise it.
Okay,
Is
so
that
just
something
that
we
one
wanna
renter.
Get into, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think you should make it as restrictive as that anyway, because then you're really cutting off a lot of opportunities. So you just got to make it very clear-cut and simple.
Well, we've had the same renter, she rents for 8 months, and we use it for the cooking classes for the other 4. That's been the standing practice, correct?
Mm-hmm. Well, for a year. I don't believe that her lease is, I think, I'm not positive, but staff, from what we can find the records, this person had only been one-time leasing before.
And,
And this would have been the second year.
okay.
The other thing is that we do want it open. I mean, you never know when we're going to do a spring camp and we're going to do a cupcake camp or a cookie camp, and we don't want to close
right,
ourselves, the rec
right.
department, completely off from being able to use it.
course.
And we're not looking at it as a moneymaker. We just
Right.
want to,
Cover the
Right.
cost.
yeah, we just want to cover the cost. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
so just to kind of frame it for myself, we're not looking to be a temporary kitchen for anyone who wants to come in and do 5 hours of baking. Because there are definitely people who would like to do that, and Oakview does some of that with various different,
Cookie clubs and stuff.
well, or even professional people who are doing kind of like small niche market kitchen stuff. So we don't want to do that, but we probably don't want 8 months booked up because we'd like the flexibility for camps and other things to use it. So would we do a month?
I mean, I think that's maybe something we should go back and I should
Do
talk to
something-
she's
staff
gonna
about.
talk.
That's fine, as long as we're trying to frame what it is
And then-
we, as
yeah.
the rec department,
and
What
we
makes
do
the
have a
decision
coup-
right now on that?
And we do have a couple options on here, I mean, that show, like, Rancho Simi charges 154 a day to 192, depending on if you're in district or not district, or in city and not city. And then Fillmore is 100 a day, they don't, so we need to figure out,
Yeah.
are we going to be available every month? Are we gonna lease it for 6 months, and we won't be able to go in there, we know that, because the
that's gonna be-
caterer stuff is
yeah.
in there, so.
Right.
That's, but I can tell you that the caterer's currently using it, is really nice. She's very accommodating, and it's just unfortunate right now that we're not even able to open.
Yeah,
And we
yeah,
plan
it's-
on rectifying that situation very, very soon.
Good, good. Well, I think it should be left like that, Renee. I think that, this has been really a huge, huge job on your part to figure this out. So just, meet with Public Works, get the fees, and they'll help you out, and make it as just as simple, clear-cut as possible. And then, make sure that Park and Rec has that ability to use it when they need to. I mean, that would be awful to cut Park and Rec off if they needed to use it and you had committed yourself to, 6 months, 8 months, or whatever. So just, go back to that.
So there are a couple of items. Do you agree? I wouldn't want to go to council with only 2 items. So are
bring it
you
back.
okay if we just,
Yeah.
research it more?
Right.
This is great, the feedback.
I think that's a great idea.
And then we'll come back with it.
Yeah.
It was brought up because when I came here, and we have a lot of staff meetings, and we haven't increased it, and our costs have gone up, and so I think more of this is going to be coming up. And so I just appreciate your time
Yeah.
and your suggestions.
Yeah,
I think it's
important.
great
Sounds
that you're
good.
doing it.
Yeah,
Thank
it's a
you
lot
for
of work.
the
This
research.
is a lot of work.
Are you also going to look into other cancellation policies, or did
I can do that, sure.
Yeah,
I, 'cause I know, like,
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
personally,
definitely.
like,
Yeah.
I don't think the 25% seems crazy low or high or.
Well, considering we don't have a cancellation policy at all right now,
Right.
Right, but it'd be interesting to
Anything
hear,
will
like, what do other, park departments do with their, like, as far as cancellation
Maybe they
policy?
don't.
I'm not opposed to the 25%. I'm opposed to the time frame.
Yeah.
I think I just don't
Yeah.
think it's really reasonable if, and I'm referring more to like a birthday party or a family reunion. I think that those things are all planned within about a 180-day window, 6-month window. Very uniquely, like a wedding, yeah, a year in advance, but even that, sometimes less. And I just, that doesn't sit well with me for the smaller
Breaking it down to
groups.
maybe a 6-month, and then breaking it down from there, instead of a year breaking it down from
And-
there, so.
Yeah, it just
Some-
seems like really far out, like, to be
Some-
penalized that much.
Yeah.
Something
Okay,
else
we can
that
revisit it.
you might consider is if that space actually does get successfully rented, maybe not having this penalty.
Yeah.
Like, let's say I
Right,
reserve a
it gets filled.
space, right?
Yeah.
And then I cancel, but
Totally agree
someone
with
else fills it up.
Yeah.
Maybe I get my
I
refund.
also think that having too harsh of a cancellation policy will actually discourage users at all.
Yep.
So we have to balance
It'll
that.
discourage them planning farther in advance. I think.
It could really backfire too, because, so much of that kind of thing is word of mouth. Oh, I rented, Park and Rec, it was just great, but then,
Yeah,
so.
definitely.
And
The big
again,
thing is to make it very, very, kind of comfortable. I mean, we don't want to make people uncomfortable. We want to make them comfortable in
Right.
there.
And also, you said it's pretty rare that you get cancellations? Or how often do you get cancellations?
No, staff said 3 times this summer.
Okay, I mean, so with no penalty for canceling, it only happened 3
3
times
times.
in a
That's
summer,
pretty
so
good.
it's like,
we could ease in if
Yeah.
we need to.
yeah, it's
make
not
it
really
harder,
being
make it harder,
abused.
but.
Yeah, it
It
doesn't
will
really seem
help
like a
doing-
problem.
No, it
It
doesn't.
will help doing a wait list, for people who come in, they're interested, and the staff
That-
looks at
I-
the calendar and
I
they're like,
think
oh, I'm
that's a good
sorry, it's
idea.
booked,
Yeah.
but
Right.
maybe you want this date, and they're like, no, I can only do it on this date. Most likely, they'll make other plans, but it just depends on the timing of it. Maybe they're looking at it 30 days in advance, and then we see, oh, this person canceled. But staff would like something in place for a cancellation
course, yeah.
policy, so that
And you
people
might wanna
don't
ease
feel
into
like
it.
they can
Yeah.
cancel,
I do think easing
which
into
happened
it.
on the cancellations. There wasn't any notice.
Right.
Right.
And we've already let PD know, maintenance know, we've put up signs, and we've turned people away. So there has to be something.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's back to the
and maybe-
reservation fee
Yeah,
idea.
non-refundable reservation fee, and then maybe, if that's not enough of a deterrent and we can get a little bit of data over the next, year or two as we move forward, like, oh, we had 11 cancellations all within 1 week prior to the arrival, then we know it's not harsh enough. But 3 doesn't seem like, it's almost like you're you're punishing the people who are actually using the park.
So currently, there's a $20, if you look, the master fee shows a $20 processing fee.
Do we not charge that?
I don't think they're charging that for the
Okay.
parks. Not for the pavilions. They are for applications and special event use, and I believe for the fields, they
What
would be
is our-
charging it.
Yeah. I'm gonna look here on
Have
the
you ever
answer
had conversations with your frontline staff on the struggles or the challenges, I guess might be a better word, that they face implementing and understanding and explaining the fee structure to somebody? I mean, do we have any feedback? I'm just curious because,
Well, they
it'd
probably
be
have.
nice to be able to streamline it so that it's simple for the customer to understand how much it's gonna cost and staff to explain it instead of having.
So it's on
like-
the application fee. Before I came here, there was already one in place. And the reservations if we're talking about the picnic pavilion, it has all the information on there, and it's nicely
clear.
laid out.
Okay.
They did a good job of it. And it explains them exactly, this is this fee for electricity and the lights, or
Yeah,
this
yeah,
and
yeah.
that, and,
Okay.
Well,
so the
she's-
application pretty much
she's-
spells it out.
Yeah.
What
I
is
think-
your biggest complaint from staff about fees? I'm just curious, because they're the ones on the front lines getting the feedback.
It's
from
not about rentals.
Okay.
Our fee structures are, there are actually no complaints
That's what I was gonna say, there
about it.
probably
It's-
aren't any
it's tough.
complaints. This is something new.
Yeah,
because-
that's mainly with like classes and
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
But
Just curious.
we've already started doing no more drop-ins and trying to alleviate that problem, so we're already moving towards,
Right.
Great.
We're
like,
moving away from drop-ins?
yeah, we are. Actually, the only one still is drop-in is seniors. Because the auditors and finance, Ojai is like one of the last people to do this, but the contractors accept money. And then they take it where they're not supposed to. And then they take it, the state, the auditors don't, they
Yeah,
don't want that.
because you have volunteers running those programs.
No,
On some-
No,
vendor
no, these are
contractors.
contractors, but the registrations go through us, so the money's, it's
Like
not
if they
good
just
when
show
you're a
up.
contractor and you take that $10 drop-in, and then you give it to the rec department the next day. So they had a choice, the contractors could, what they've done in other cities, because this has been in place for a few years now, just not here. They just will collect a drop-in from the patron signs a waiver, and then folds it up, puts their credit card information, then puts it in the drop box, which we have. But the instructors, like Clifton, and he works for Caneo, and the comment he made was, I was wondering when you guys were going to do that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then everybody else decided, you know what, we want to make sure that people are going to be here. Our program, they're so affordable. So anyway, I left it up to the instructors, they can either do this themselves, put in the drop-in, so that we don't completely eliminate it. What do you want to do? Anyway, everybody wanted to do this, and the only, we lost our Zumba program, and that's personal. And so the only one left is weight room. And so the weight room people are now coming into the front office to pay the drop-in fee. That's the way it should be done.
Okay,
And then they're going, that way the contractor's doesn't
Have you thought
handle
about
any
punch
of this.
cards?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, so we can still have a
So no-
model that's drop-in, but it's gonna need to be prepaid.
And no gymnastic drop-in then?
Yeah, because gymnastics had drop-in too.
So no gymnastic drop-in?
Gymnastics is different. Yeah, I was talking about specialty classes
okay,
and stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
So they are
Because
still
there's a
allowing drop-in.
full-time Vicky,
Yeah.
yeah.
Staff
because
is on it,
that's-
it's a
staff
different
is on it,
model.
Right,
Staff.
this is,
Got it.
these are specialty contractors, and they're contracts.
Okay.
and
Got it.
they're not-
Sorry,
they're
we're
not
off
in
topic.
place.
I shouldn't have
that's
asked the
okay.
question.
They're
I just,
great. They're great questions. It's okay.
so much, I know.
That's enough, that's enough for
So
her.
much.
That's
Actually,
enough.
we have
Enough
one more
for her.
item.
Yep.
What is it?
Oh, can I just make one observation before we move on from this? Looking at our picnic area rentals at $85 a day, if we did the $20 processing fee, we're already at 25%. As like a non-refundable, as the same idea,
non-refundable
non-refundable, processing fee, or what did you call it? A
Non-refundable
non-reservation
reservation fee.
So if we were to implement something that we already had there, it would put it right about $100 for the big
I
rental.
believe-
So
sorry,
that's
I
all
think they're-
just,
And I can't find, I wish Allison was here, because I don't see it on our master fee schedule, but I believe they take deposits.
yeah.
But it's not a cancellation policy.
No,
It's a deposit
this isn't-
on.
a deposit is
It's a deposit on like.
Refund, right, you want to charge a fee, so a non-refundable reservation
Because the
fee.
deposit isn't about
Right.
right, it's about damage and
Right.
leaving gum everywhere and.
So one is a,
neighbor's
one is listed as a
yard.
fee, and the other one is, the
deposit.
rental. Right,
Correct.
this is a rental
Yeah.
and this is a fee.
Yeah. So so.
We'll rework it.
Yeah.
Let her.
That's right, no, it's great feedback.
Good.
So do you want me to finish just?
Yes, why don't you go to 9? So we are, just to clear it all up in the end, we are going to bring this back next month with, after some more research and possibly some changes, and then we'll make it a discussion item again and hopefully be able to make a recommendation.
Correct.
Okay, good. Then
And
we're
then-
on to 9A.
Part of that recreation report, and, well, I might as well just finish with the pickleball. And Tim, there's a copy up here for you. These are the signs that we're working on, park signs, because we noticed at Daly Park, there's no park signs over there.
There's
And
a park
we've
sign.
had- It says Daly Park.
Yes, that's just, it just says what its
Right,
name is,
but
yeah.
we've had 2 people like attacked by dogs, like one person, they're not on lead and this and that. I mean, they weren't attacked physically, but they were almost hurt, and they called in and they complained. And so we want to be preventative with any kind of, complaint that we get, and see if we can rectify the
important.
situation. And so
Very important.
so when we contacted Public Works, Alice and I noticed that there wasn't a sign there, and we asked, and so then the project went back to rec and said, let's do signs. So if you look at the following, this is just a draft, and I went over every single item with the city manager and with Public Works. So would be an example for the pickleball court here. We haven't decided really on the hours, it's just a sample. And they would be all the same for all the parks so that you have park rules.
Yeah.
You can't just walk around with alcohol. You need
Right.
a permit for it. And even for the little, even for Little Daily. Also, you can't be out there. I heard there are a couple of groups out there, big groups doing like Tai Chi and this and that. And if you're an organized group, you have to have a permit and make the city additionally insured.
Sure.
So there's reasons to have a sign other than not wanting to have an open flame and archery and golf on your parks. So these are all items that were suggested to put onto the new park rules and regulations sign.
My only comment would be that anything that's a matter of law doesn't really need to be cited again. I think that parks are supposed to be a place of relaxation and recreation, and I think that we are so, no. It is, if you switch your thinking around to, this is a welcoming place for us to gather and have recreation, it's a matter of law that you can't have an alcoholic beverage in a public facility unless it's by permit. So I don't know that you need to. We have a camping ordinance, right? There's no camping in the city unless you're in a business commercial zone, right? That's why we have a problem on Bryant Street. So those matter. No archery.
We just wanted to be consistent.
Yeah, I think
So otherwise, we're going to have to do,
No
which is
horseback
fine.
riding,
This is why it's up for discussion.
I think
We
that
would have to make a sign for every single different signs for different parks. So we thought about like Daly Park, if the problem is dogs are off lead, and Greg had mentioned this from Public Works, just put a sign on there saying, but then next year, you're going to have somebody smoking in the park, and the next year after that, you're going to have something else, and then you're going to have to redo the sign.
Those are enforcement issues.
yeah.
Those are not rule. Those are whoever is the enforcement authority needs to be out doing their due diligence and doing their job, essentially.
That's 16
So-
items. How often do you get people
We
to
don't
read
have people
16
like
items
that,
anywhere?
Susie, in our town
So
that
I
can do
just-
all that.
It's the sheriff's department. What are you talking about? It's not,
I don't.
that's their job.
Was it yesterday or the day before, there was this woman and she was in the park and she had 2 dogs that were really big dogs and she had them off leash.
I'm sorry, what park?
Libby. And, I was there with
Do you
my
think a
grandson.
sign would have deterred her?
Yes, I do, just like at
I guarantee
the
you-
Meadows, yes.
No.
They have signs everywhere
Anybody
there.
that,
And
they're,
there's plenty of dogs off leash.
yeah, the leash law is widely publicized.
Yeah.
And people who are going to violate the leash law are going to violate the leash law whether there's an obnoxious sign or not. Now, somebody might, in the citizen's position, say, oh, there's the sign right here, but you don't need a sign to say that. You could, it is an enforcement issue, and, maybe next month what we really need to do as a commission is have our law enforcement representative here. These issues are no different than the transient issue in Libby Park, and when they were advised of an issue, they put resources on it and eliminate it. So if it's a huge issue that people are going to Daly Park and smoking, then the new captain can address those issues.
I have to say, I think, living very near Daly Park, the dogs off leash are a problem. They're a big problem. And I think one sign saying, keep your, no dogs off leash would be more effective than these 16 items.
Do you think if a sign that said no horseback riding, is anybody going to read the 16? Is that
No,
really?
I don't,
right?
that's my point is, I don't think they will, but I think if you put up on the same sign that says Daly Park, no dogs off leash, I agree with you, it won't correct it.
Yeah.
Because we have people who walk up there
No,
from
but like,
down the
let's-
street with no leash in hand.
I mean, do you
it's
have
an
to
issue,
have-
but
It is an issue.
There's probably a practical limit of maybe like 3 things you
You
could
gotta,
put on a sign.
exactly.
Yeah, there
I
you
don't
go.
think no disorderly conduct. That's just. Those are all matters of law. You can't
Well,
drive a motor
again,
vehicle.
I don't think this
in a
is
park.
something that we can, address. I think that we should have somebody, like one of the officials, come and just say, okay,
Well,
we get what, we
our-
get what you're
our
saying.
role is
And then we're
to-
giving
is to
all the
weigh in.
exceptions, like
What?
horseback
Our
riding.
job is to
excepted
weigh
with-
in.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
'Cause we
But
did
what
with the
I'm
skate park
saying
as
is
well.
that,
I I guess if you don't, so just want to let you know, there is a park rules, there are 2 park rule signs similar to this at Sarzati Park right now. They're just not updated. In Libby Park, that they also have signs over there.
What about
So-
putting it at like a kiosk, like to have it so that's posted, something on like a bulletin type board that's like not so,
Are you saying then to take it, I mean, we do, I know what you're saying, we have kiosks already. We have one at Sarzati, we have 2
Just-
at the tennis courts
I
at
just
Libby,
think-
we've got them.
if I pulled up to
But-
Daly Park and I saw that there was no
First thing.
horseback riding, I mean, I'm not gonna read that anyways. And then really, what you're saying is that if somebody complains, it becomes an enforcement issue, and they don't need the sign to say, you know, no motorized vehicles, and it's just,
Or no
it just seems
organized.
so.
I guess,
no.
and also if you feel you have to do this, let's not make it a big sign. Let's make it a small sign that goes in a small place. And then additionally,
Non-intrusive,
if,
yeah.
non-intrusive, and then if we need a, you know, dogs on leash at Daly Park, which I think is not a bad idea, make that the sign that looks nice and is one sign versus the first thing you see is a, I don't know.
A
That's what you're-
regulatory
A
sign.
regulatory sign at the very
What
front of
sign,
the
what
park is not
size were you
friendly.
thinking? Like,
Well, if you could get it
no,
in.
I mean,
oh.
Renee, what were you thinking? Like 20 by 20? Because that just seems.
No. This, I'll show you a picture of the sign. Because we went to Fillmore, Santa Paula, Simi, and Moore Park. And they all had these signs. And so this is just, they
What
were
about
at
just
all the
posting a
parks.
copy of our ordinance?
There's a lot of ordinances.
No, the one that would relate to the parks.
There are in different places, I
There's-
believe. They're
there's-
not, it's not all one.
Yeah, section 4 and chapter 12, it's,
I like the idea of having the
Here, I'm gonna
police
show you.
department weigh in on what they think would
Yes.
be effective
Yeah.
Me too.
relative to what our concerns are.
So where was
Have a new
this?
chief, so perhaps we can,
Moore Park.
I think,
but we
I'm
took
happy
new
to reach
pictures
out
of it.
and find out if somebody can come and have a discussion more than just, like, we can make it a discussion item. And,
Extremely important.
So you're leaning right now, no signs, and then,
No, I don't think
No,
that's
I
it.
just- how big, I don't know, I can't really
oh,
tell.
I'll
like,
give you
how
the
big that
size.
is.
I
It's
want to
probably
say
like-
it was 2 by
like-
3. It wasn't, it's only,
It's pretty big, though.
and it goes up on top of a light
It's
pole.
pretty big.
I think to what Sage said, like, I wouldn't want something this big, kind of like the first thing you see
Red.
when you come into the park, because it is very unwelcoming. If it needs to be posted somewhere, I think that's fine.
Yeah,
if
we'd
it's
find a
somewhat
flat spot,
discreet.
yes.
And then, yeah, if there's, up to maybe 3 things that we really want to remind people not to
Yeah.
do.
And then
And
have
we
those
can hopefully have
separate.
an
Maybe like on the
icon
side of the
Yeah.
trash cans.
rather than a lot of
Well,
words.
So
Like at
just,
Daly, that's the best place you could put it.
so to answer your question, it's 2 by 3.
Wow.
They're half-inch letters. But I guess with consideration,
really
bringing
big.
this
That's
back
really
next
big.
month and maybe getting more advice from, we do have a new police chief, by the way.
Oh, who is it?
And his name is Jose Rivera.
Oh.
But we already have the signs. You may want to, that might be a consideration too. We have signs at Sarzati.
They have all these
and
no
Libby
things on
and,
'em.
I mean, I know, yeah, there's,
It's just
there's
a
2 ways you
lot.
can.
You can turn your ringer off on your phone.
So is the recommendation to just put this on, like, bring it back and
I just
then
would- I
with
think I'd like
other
some more-
advice, or?
Yeah,
I
I'd like to have
two
it as a
questions.
discussion item.
As a discussion item, I would like to, I think having law enforcement come in and talk about what would be helpful to them is a great idea.
Yeah.
And then, as a second item, if there's a need for this from a true liability standpoint, and council feels that this needs to be done, city council, then that's outside of our purview, and I don't want to weigh in on that. As far as the size and where it should go, specifically talking to Daly Park, which is a tiny park with one sign, and the next thing you put in is a 2-foot by 3-foot no sign.
Right.
I think that isn't a good fit there, and so I think there's some, we need to have
There's a lot of leeway there.
Yeah,
You could
that's
just have
just-
the
it's-
one with, like dog leash, whatever, just a small little sign, depending on
Well,
where it
and
is.
another a way to word something, like, for example, you have the following activities are prohibited in city parks. Now, instead of making that blanket statement, maybe the things that we want to say is alcohol beverages by permit only.
Yeah.
It's just a different approach to saying the same thing,
Yeah.
but not as
Yeah.
many,
It's harsh, yeah.
no, 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 no.
Right, right.
I like the by permit. I think that's helpful.
Okay, I think we can go on from that. You're gonna bring it back.
Does that seem helpful to you, or?
Yeah, it actually was it was a project for this.
So it's already done, is what we're
City-
hearing?
No,
Oh.
no, not at all. It was just brought up because of because of those two incidents over
Yeah.
at Daly Park, and then we brought it to a staff meeting, and then it was brought up to say, hey, let's do park signs, and then it was given to recreation to do.
There you go.
It,
That's how
That's
it
the
came,
chain of
that's
events.
how it
Okay.
came
it'd
about.
also be helpful to know, and I don't know if this is a police or a staff thing, but aside from these dog issues at Daly Park, what other issues come up at the parks that we might want signage to?
Well, nobody's riding horses anywhere else other than Libby. And it actually, our ordinance says that horses are not allowed unless, with the exception of where the city manager decides that they can be, or something like that. But I know that there has been horses there. I actually don't, I mean, I can only speak for Sarzati and the skate park because I mean,
Right.
Public Works has been in charge of the other parks, so I really can't speak
Right.
to the other parks. And
Well,
I had a
we
really
need to
difficult time doing this.
And
Yeah.
that's information that we need to really have in order to make a proper, recommendation. That's, I think, I mean, are they having problems? Do we, I mean,
I have not,
no two kids riding on one swing at a time? I mean,
There-
it
yeah,
gets a little
'cause
ridiculous,
there
right?
I mean,
is-
skateboarding is always a problem, like everywhere. They want to go on the benches and,
The-
you-
There, yeah. I mean, there's a cost to having a big no sign, right? It's just like an image cost.
Well, I mean, how
And
many
so-
open flame barbecues are you having not in
all
the
the
park?
time. No, I'm
Not
just
in the park barbecues. So, I mean,
This was just a generic, like, this is what everybody else has on their city property. So it was, it
we're
was,
different. That's
it
what I
was
have to say.
discussed by staff and it was directed that I bring this to you. And I am very happy to hear any kind of opinions or anything on this subject, and whether we're going to do signs or not, or maybe update the ones that we have. I think we can talk to PD about it and bring it back.
That'd be great.
This will be brought to the next staff meeting for city.
And maybe even know if there's actually been any, negative contacts or citations written for these egregious violations that we're seeing here. I'd like to know.
I think that's just
Okay.
important is there's a possibility.
All right, and then,
9A, I think.
yeah, programs and events, we're working really hard on the spring summer brochure. The job fair, we have one Friday night, so just reminding you, if you know anybody 16 and up who wants a job, we are gonna have our first spring camp, full day spring camp, so we need staff, and those would be the kids that are going here in Ojai.
So
um,
Will you
for
give
the
us
school, 'cause
where
we're
it
on the
is and what
same-
time and all that, just so people
Yeah,
out there?
it's at the Boyd Center at Sarzati Park. So Recreation Center, Boyd Center, from does it say 6 to 8?
6 to 8 p.m.
6 to 8 p.m. and we're interviewing like right there. We're having everybody fill out applications and we put it on Facebook, and we've actually got a lot of good response. And so we have a big turnover during the summertime. College kids leave, high school kids graduate, and so we're always looking for summer, but this year we're also looking for spring. We're going to have the break is the same time that the kids for the public schools for the Ojai school district is out, and we're also looking for lifeguards. We pay for the training,
Excellent.
so
And there are flyers here for us to take?
yes, please.
So we
And there's
can-
some outside as well.
Great.
Where is the training? Is there kind of a training that you send everyone to, or it's up to
Meaning we
them?
do the training for like CPR, and we do the training for
No,
lifeguard
but he
training.
means where?
So the rec department does the training?
The rec department in the past has done the training. Nordhoff Pool is
Yeah.
not available to
No.
us this summer,
No.
and we're still waiting for an answer from Villanova.
Villanova.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Great.
Job fair,
Oh, wait,
concussion
yeah.
training.
That's it's an online training that I put into place for anybody teaching doing sports. So it would be
Great.
for the people that rent our even AYSO coaches and this and that as part of the contract. Somebody would have to go through concussion training, and the training. And we're putting all our officials through it, and anybody that like kung fu and stuff like that, contractors too. And it's a free training. It's online. It's through the CDC,
Oh, good.
Center of Disease Control, and it takes around 45 minutes to do it online, and then it's a free certificate at the end. It's something that CDC made available to everybody, and it's really, really, it's very informational, and they've come up with some new research about concussions. So very
A
informative.
lot more common than,
Sorry?
I said they are a lot more common than we realize,
Oh, yes.
especially with kids.
Well, I'm glad you guys are doing that. That's great.
Yeah,
good-
and
good
then
resource.
CPR AED, I just want to let you know, because last time we talked about it, and I think Susie or say one of you had mentioned, hey, it'd be great to do the contracts. Just to let you know, something that came down from a city hall that's coming down from the federal government that has been in place, similar to what I was talking about with the contracts and the contractors. They have to be independent of the city, of, when we hire them.
Regulation.
So we're not allowed to do invoices for them. They have to invoice us.
Right.
We can take registrations for them. So there's some changes going on right now, just to meet federal law. And then one other thing also is we can't provide the training for them for CPR. And so
Well, we can't
we'll
have
have to-
cost, right? We can charge them for it.
they
We just
can't go to
provide-
our, they can go to our classes. Like we have a
Yeah.
CPR AED class
Right.
coming up.
At a
We can't
cost.
provide it for free to them.
Correct. But they're not going to be part of our staff training either.
Well, understandable.
No, but
They
you
can
can
come to our
provide-
classes. We could provide a class that's
For
at a time
contractors.
that's for contractors
Well-
that they would pay for.
No, see, then we're providing the service for them, but they can come to our CPR class. We've
Okay.
got a CPR class that's in 2
That's what we're
weeks.
saying. I mean,
So we're
perhaps
gonna
if our
offer them-
vendors.
Well, we had talked about something different before. I was hoping, oh yeah, they could
Yeah.
come to our training, but they
But no.
can't. They
Okay.
can't do that and mix
Got
in
it.
with our staff because they really need to stay
You
independent.
can't treat them like staff. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and so there's other ways to do it, but I just wanted to bring that up to
Thank
be
you.
honest and tell you,
just think
inform you
my-
what's going on.
My concern was I thought that the independent contractors, as part of their contract, they should be, regardless of who they get the training from, they should be required to be AED and, CPR and first aid trained if they're providing services to the kids.
And we talked about that.
Is that the
Yeah,
case?
it's not right now in the contracts, and the new contracts are not until the new year. That has not been in place
So
with the
it's
city.
not required, and we can't provide.
We can,
Special training.
but other cities, we can tell them as
asking to
part of the
clarify.
contract, when the contract comes up
But they
again,
need to have
that you
it.
have to have it right, and we wouldn't be the only city doing that.
No,
Okay.
I think
So
it's
I don't
really a
think they'd be
great.
surprised.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just that I just wanted to notify you that we
Right.
couldn't do it the way that we were talking about.
There's a clear
doing it, that's
separation.
all.
Okay.
Right, and then, okay, that's it.
Good.
Okay.
Any committee
I have no
reports
updates.
from anyone?
Is the CPR?
No.
Couple of weeks, it's on our,
Okay.
it is in the motion, okay.
So if there are no committee reports, then we will talk about, well, we don't have a council liaison tonight, so we will be moving on to future agenda items and dates. And at this point, we have Greg coming back, and we're going to talk about the multi-sport courts again.
Right.
We have the fee structure coming back. We're going to do the same agenda
Have the
again
sign
with
on the
more
side.
information, sorry. Is there anything
Well,
else?
let's put them under discussion items.
Yes, as discussion items, sorry.
So I've got two. So one, I don't think it's a discussion item, but it's a procedural thing, is that we do need to pick a chair.
Yes,
So
time
we're
to vote for
supposed do
chair.
every year.
Yep, good.
And then pickleball, if there's something we want to discuss, it'd be good to have something
You'll
else.
let us
They'll
know
be
what
under
council.
discussion
Okay.
items.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't want to, so like, if there's a concern that we can't talk about it because we don't have a discussion
Well-
item for it, like, let's have it.
I think that we need to seek a little clarification, because I think if it's an agendized item, we can have discussion on the agendized item. So I think there's some misunderstanding there. With a person who comes up, we are allowed to engage on an agendized item. It doesn't have to a discussion item is more like a, specific thing, but if it's agendized, we can have a discussion. As
Okay.
long as it's on the agenda, we can have a discussion about it.
Then I'm fine if there's clarification to that, but then why do we, so what is a discussion item different than a rec report staff update?
These are kind of more like standing,
Items.
like
I mean-
format, this is like a formatting issue that,
Well, so next time we could put them as discussion items. So there's,
so there's
well,
clear.
instead of, so we're gonna move them and make everyone like 8A.
The whole point of it is
So
that
it'd be
you're putting out your
BCD.
agenda and the public is informed about the issues and welcome to come and participate. And, you know, that there's gonna be, you know, that is the best place for it. But I don't think we're prohibited. What we're prohibited is under public comments, talking about, you know, turning Soul Park into something else. And we have a engaging conversation when it is not on our agenda. That's where the Brown Act comes in.
Okay, I would love clarification. We can ask city staff to clarify that for us. If that's the way that it is,
Yeah.
I'm
So
I'm
if
fine
somebody
with
comes
that.
to us
But
and they
that
want to
wasn't what
talk, we
I-
cannot
Yeah,
talk to
so
them. We
I'd
can
prefer
receive.
it was a discussion item, like explicitly.
Yeah,
Because to me, a staff report sounds just like there's going to be information and maybe some
Right.
clarifying
Yeah.
questions.
No
but,
action item.
so,
Like, and we violate that, right? We just had a
Regularly,
really long
yes.
discussion about several of these items.
Yep.
And then one we said, well, we're not going to discuss.
I can
So-
get that clarified.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I would
just to
definitely.
ensure that we're doing it the right way.
Sure.
and I think that part of that becomes important is the public, if we have a lot of public comment, I want to make sure that we're discussing it at the right time. When we're discussing things and there's no public comment amongst ourselves, but I would love clarification, because I do not have my book of Robert's Rules of Order,
Yeah,
nor
Brown-
do
the
I
Brown
have a
Act.
strong grounding in exactly how this all works.
Oh, and then I'm supposed to
Oh, yeah,
remind you.
and two more announcements. Your 700 form, please, as Gayla, please fill it out and turn it in.
Did they
And
send out an
then-
email on that?
She said they did. I didn't
I
see
didn't
it.
get it.
I didn't, but what I was told too is you just go online and get it.
And usually you can say like no changes and refile.
Some years yes, some years no. Some years I've gotten one that was partially filled, and other years I've had to refill it. So, however it works out.
You
But,
didn't get that,
but there was a separate email from Joe Fist, which was about, let's see, let me get this right. Mandatory ethics training.
Oh, yeah. I
So
didn't
please
read that.
respond. There's an opportunity to do it online, or it looks like there will be an opportunity to do it in person if you prefer to do it that way.
Okay.
So if he's looking for an answer from everybody, if they would
That's new.
prefer, that just came in yesterday.
But it's a new requirement.
Yes. I don't know if it's a new requirement.
I've never done it before.
Well,
Have you?
no. So, but I can't speak to it being whether it's, but we are doing it.
Okay.
So,
Excuse me, if we could go back, whom is the person that you, Sage, will talk to find out discussion and how it gets on the agenda, or
I think
what?
staff.
Renee is going to talk to staff, because there are city employees who are well-versed in Robert's Rules of
Right.
Order and how
Okay.
that should be done, and then she'll get back to
Actually,
us.
during our meetings, every week we have Matt, our attorney.
Oh,
our city
good.
attorneys, Our attorney.
Yeah, okay.
So,
So he would be the person that you would ask?
yeah, well, and
Okay.
the city manager.
Yeah.
will,
Okay, okay,
Of course.
yeah. all
Just for
right.
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah.
I think kind of a fresh look at how we structure our
Yes.
agendas would be
Mhm.
great, because
It
I
would
think a
be.
lot of it's just kind of like happened over
I
time.
agree.
And
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
yeah,
and,
there's not
you know,
necessarily rhyme or reason to some of it.
It is interesting. In my prior job, I'm used to a rec staff report just being, whatever it is that we say, and then these become discussion items if it's a discussion item. So I'll get clarification.
Oh, that'd be
And
great.
that's a fine practice too, if you want.
Yeah.
This is something that maybe we need to work, maybe one of our meetings is just working on all this. As part of the meeting, after we,
Yeah, we
get
have
a
had
new
this for
chair
a
and
long
do all
time.
this, and, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could review, the Robert's rules and.
I don't think
Brown
Robert's
Act
rules apply. It's just the
and
Brown Act.
all
Brown
that.
Act,
Yeah. we
Robert
could.
rules is more like private sector, that those are things that you follow,
It's
but
usually
the Brown Act is what governs this body.
Yeah, the city attorney, or somebody of that position could orientate the commission on something
Sure,
like
yeah.
that if
That'd
it
be good.
hasn't been done, so you're saying that it hasn't been done.
Well, no, I don't know that anybody's ever really talked, I
Not
think
since
that
I've been
they
here,
probably
anyway.
send a link, and it's kind of left to the commissioners to, educate themselves, and just our past experiences that we're able to, but this has been an old agenda that we've used since I've been on, and we could probably have a fresh look at it.
And then Sage, you have one more, the chair.
Oh, as a future agenda item, to next month, add that so that we will elect a new chair. Perfect. Okay, and so if nothing else from anyone, I think we're ready to adjourn at 8:07. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
I was trying to get to a candidates forum, but I don't think it's happening. Ventura. No, this is like full-on election season right now.